I'm going to share some strategies and some tools that you can kind of jump right into right now to, dip your metaphorical toes into the world of generative AI. And then I want to really kind of show you how some of these tools can work as well. So I'm hoping I'll have a little bit of time for that as well. I know that these descriptions and workshop objectives were sent out to you prior to today's workshop, so I won't go over these too much. But what I'm pulling together here is kind of some information on projections for the future of work. Again, some of those tools and strategies that are going to address some of those trends in workforce development and in hiring, as far as skills go and things like that. And then again, looking at that personal action plan for yourself. So I really like to allow folks to take some of these resources and apply them to their own circumstance, situation, industry, job search, etc. And I hope you'll be able to walk away with that today. So as far as context goes, I think it's pretty relevant to start with the time of COVID. COVID is really something that changed a whole lot for us as far as the workforce goes, where we go to work, how we go to work, and the type of work that we do. So as the world sort of shut down and we transitioned into this very virtual and digital space, beyond the way we work and how we do it has really changed. So it's changed everything from, our relationship with nature, the way we interact with our friends and family. I know a lot of folks are using Zoom and these tools for communication than really ever were before. Travel, health visits, how we work out. I mean, I have a Peloton at home now and I plan on never going back to the gym. So some of you might have experienced some of those changes that came sort of via that COVID pandemic. And there are a lot of influencing factors that brought us to that. Of course, the expansion of technology, including, more widespread capacity for Wi-Fi, the increased speed of that broadband internet, more environmental awareness of the impact we have on our community and our environment in terms of our commuting and, the things that go into impacting the environment from a work space. We've really kind of come about this hybrid working environment. And in my future of work workshop and in my remote working workshop that I teach at Workforce Boulder County, I really like to tell folks that the future of remote work is hybrid. So we seem to think that after the pandemic, there'd be these options for many, many, many people to work from home. But really what we're seeing as far as trends go in hiring is that most folks are going to have an opportunity to work in a hybrid setting, which means sometime in the office, sometime remote. And we're really starting to see a decline in postings and a slowing of hiring for fully remote positions. That doesn't mean that you don't have an option to work fully remote at all. Those are just some of the trends that I wanted to share with you. So when I think about these things and how they have impacted where we are today, and especially where we're going in the future, I want to really hone in on what might be considered the future of work. And right, because we can't totally predict the future, we can only look at some projections that economists and other researchers who are studying what we're going through right now might come out of. I just want to touch in on this concept that I would call the future of work. And what comes into that, some of those factors that contribute are things like globalization, right? Our increasingly interconnected world and how that impacts the work we do and how we do it. Of course, those technological advances, among which are generative artificial intelligence, which we will be talking about today, how that impacts and changes demographics and who shows up to the workforce in various capacities, as well as those market forces. So I really like this image that sort of depicts the idea of the future of work, bringing together who does the work, right? How the work is done, and when and where the work is done. So that brings in all those factors that we've been talking about. And for those of you that are not super familiar with the idea of generative artificial intelligence, I know we've kind of been throwing that term around. Travis talked about it a little bit as well with his company. I want to kind of give an overview of what that might look like. So generative AI is a type of technology that really is quite new because of its ability to create entirely new content from the data that these artificial intelligence models were trained on. That's what makes it generative. So it's able to produce things that are new, drawing on information that's already out there. We call these large language models. So this AI works sort of as an algorithm that produces a wide range of new content. And it can create everything from images to music, to text, to audio, to video, and even code. So the large language model is what enables this technology and allows the artificial intelligence algorithms to train on these very large data sets. I want to link in here in the chat a resource that is really helpful in kind of understanding what generative AI is and how it has the potential to impact the American worker. So I pop that into the chat. Feel free to check into that as you see fit. So there's kind of the context that I wanted to get into. And what I really want to broaden our understanding of beyond that is how this potentially has the capacity to impact the workforce of the future. And from that, I'm going to be drawing from the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, and I want to pop that into the chat as well. This is the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report from 2023, and I have two slides that just kind of highlight that really high-level trend and pattern sort of stuff that comes from it. So I know there's a lot of random things on this screen. Let me walk through it with you quickly before we get into those AI tools. So what the World Economic Forum has done is they have explored how jobs and skills will evolve over the next 5 or so years. They release these reports every couple years. There was a report in 2020, there was a report in 2023, and they're actually working on a 2024 report right now. So if you click on that link that I sent out, you should be able to access all the different reports. And I think what's really interesting is as we move forward in time, some of those projections come true, and some of those projections kind of take a backseat or get pushed back. So in the 2020 report, they were saying that by 2027, over 50% of all business tasks would be automated by this generative AI and some other technologies. And they've sort of scaled that projection back in the 2023 report. They're saying that by 2027, about half of those business tasks will be automated. And what that means is that we will be incorporating artificial intelligence, specifically that generative artificial intelligence, to sort of automate and streamline many of the tasks that we are currently doing in our jobs today. So we're using that artificial intelligence specifically to take on some of those simple and repetitive tasks that are easier for machines or computers to do than for people. And what that creates an alarm for, a cause of concern in many folks, is this idea of, well, I'm going to be replaced by a machine, right? Or I'm going to be replaced by this technology. And in reality, these reports and these projections are actually sort of saying not quite the opposite of that, but are sort of warning against it. So the question becomes, right, as these machines start to take over some of these tasks that we are currently doing, what does that mean for us as workers? And that question is, to what extent will AI automate and replace humans versus augment the capacity of humans in the workforce? And what I mean by that augmentation is have the ability to enhance our own capabilities, improve our own efficiency, productivity, and performance. And the good news is what many of these reports are suggesting is really that augmenting is sort of the goal of generative artificial intelligence rather than replacing or displacing current employees, right? So looking ahead to the next couple years, the prediction is that the adoption of AI will reshape many roles in the workforce. And generally, they are expecting that more employees will be reskilled, right? Learning new skills and sort of employed in a different sort of way than to be separated from their jobs. And that's what this data is suggesting here, right? So more of this redistribution of employees displaced by technology or working alongside the technology to become more productive in their jobs. So some of that redistribution or shifting of, the human's role in the workforce, you can see here under transformation of tasks, jobs, and skills. So these are the types of things that humans are going to be more important for in this future workforce. Engage in that digitalizing the work processes. So engaging in that, continuous going from the paper to the digital, the reskilling, the upskilling, and the next skilling. If we are really thinking that artificial intelligence and these new technologies are going to have such a significant impact on our society, our culture, and our workforce, we've got to figure out how to use them. And so there's going to have to be this kind of mass education effort to get folks trained in these skills and the way that we can use them in various applications in our jobs. Engaging in new and frontier technologies. Just because AI is here now doesn't mean it's not going to evolve and change and continue to transform ourselves and our work. Broadening that digital access, right? The equity piece of this. If so many people are going to need these skills and need to use these technologies, we need to make sure that folks have access to those technologies and the kind of platforms that enable them. And then, of course, really the sustainability component. The idea is that we will be really thinking more about the impact we have on the environment and how we can have roles and jobs related to that. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple more data points here before I jump into that skills part to really kind of think about how quickly this is coming at us. And I think to Eric's point earlier, right, of, are we there? Are we getting there? Like, where are we in this process? So according to this Future of Jobs report, more than 75% of companies are looking to adopt technologies like generative AI, also including cloud computing and big data, in the next 5 years. Okay. Another piece of data I want to share with you is that over 85% of organizations that were surveyed by this report by the World Economic Forum have identified this increased adoption of new technologies and broadening digital access as the thing that's going to transform their organization. So here's a point that I want to make that can feel a little scary or icky, but I'm going to say it anyway. You are likely not going to be replaced by AI, but you could very well be replaced by someone who can use AI. I'm going to say that one more time. You are likely not going to be replaced by AI in your job, your role, your industry, but you will likely be replaced by someone who can use it if you can't. So that's kind of like the incentive and the motivation to think about, yeah, maybe I should start learning about this. Maybe I should start trying it out because it's that willingness to learn, to grow, and to evolve both personally and professionally that is one of the things that folks are really seeking as they are looking for employees right now. And that really brings us back to this list of core skills you see on the left-hand side of your screen. So this also comes from that World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report. And these are the top core skills that employers are looking for in employees, coinciding with this report and this data on the adoption of artificial intelligence in the workforce. Anybody notice anything in particular about those skills that you see there? I'm going to read some of them aloud in the event that it's small on your screen. Analytical thinking, creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, agility, motivation and self-awareness, curiosity and lifelong learning. What do you notice about those skills that you're seeing there? Soft skills, core skills, working with others, right? And that idea of focusing on learning and change, that willingness to grow, to learn, and to evolve over the course of your career. So really less emphasis on some of the technical stuff and more focus on the ability to, or the willingness, I guess, really to learn. So one of the big things that really is coming out of this report and this data, and this is just kind of like the big high level stuff here, is that things are going to change. And it's whether or not we are willing to investigate, jump on board, and try out some of these changes, as opposed to kind of saying, I'm not going to. That's really going to be one of the dividing factors in hiring moving forward. So again, this just sort of highlights some of those things here, right? Jobs are changing, they aren't necessarily going away. That same data point I just gave you, that approximately 75% of companies are looking to adopt these technologies in the next couple of years. The impact that that might have on certain roles and industries, you see, right? The job driving technologies are where jobs are going to be a little bit more plentiful are in some of those industries: big data analytics, climate change, environmental management technologies, encryption, data security, cybersecurity, that sort of stuff. Sectors that are potentially going to experience decline are ones that have really repetitive tasks, simple tasks that can often be very easily taken over by the technology. So a lot of like administrative roles, data entry and things like that. I've got an image on the next slide that's going to really dig into that. And the big idea is that folks are going to have to learn new skills. Anywhere between 5 and upwards of that out of 10 workers, 6 and 10 workers or even more are going to really require new training before 2027. And so the question becomes, where do we get that training? How do we learn these things? How do we make sure that we are on the front end of this, right? I also want to point out that some of the fastest growing roles are really being driven by just what we talked about: technology, digitalization, and sustainability. And with that, I also want to introduce this concept of the capacity that generative artificial intelligence has to, again, augment or displace workers in this process. And for that, I want to give a quick example of what happened in Hollywood just last year. So we have to think about how many roles across various sectors have the capacity to change as a result of this new technology. So writers, creatives, lawyers, consultants, really everybody is going to need to work differently, because a little part of everyone's job is likely to be affected by generative AI. And there's kind of a key point here too, right? We need to make sure that we as workers are supporting and adjusting to these transitions, but also making sure that we are defended and protected as part of it. So there's actually currently this stark mismatch between the industries and occupations that are most exposed to the impact of generative AI in the workforce and the sectors where workers have substantial union strength. So this concept of unionizing to protect yourself against these changes that have the potential to displace you, and thinking about how we could better work together with the technology rather than having the technology replace us, is something that a lot of folks are really talking about. And this is what happened in Hollywood, right? The Writers Guild opted to use the AI technology in principle and to assume its ongoing evolution, while also establishing a role in co-determining the technology's use, right? Saying, here's what we can use the technology for in this industry, and here's where we really need to safeguard intellectual property of humans. Ensure that there is still a place for humans to be employed in this system, and to consider like compensation and how it impacts this as well. I'm going to do a real quick addressing of this question in the chat. Are employers using this data to inform their recruiting? And how does one demonstrate the curiosity, willingness to learn in the process? The answer is yes. Employers are definitely using this data. And one of the things that's going to really impact recruitment and hiring in the future is the use of big data driven by artificial intelligence, generative AI, to identify what sorts of needs they have and where they can pull from various talent pools. We are actually about to start working with a new system. We currently use Connecting Colorado as our unemployment kind of platform here in the state of Colorado for workforce centers. And as that system starts to evolve, big data and artificial intelligence are actually being incorporated into those systems to do a better job of matching talent to need in recruitment. I hope that sort of answers your question there. Thanks for that. So I hope that example from Hollywood sort of demonstrates what I'm thinking about when in terms of like augmenting versus displacing folks. And here's just an image that sort of depicts the same idea, right? Generative AI technology may impact broad swaths of our nation's workers. What we're seeing here is that about 30% of all workers could see at least 50% of their tasks impacted or disrupted by AI, and about 85% of workers are going to see at least 10% of their tasks, right? So the idea here is that everyone is going to experience the impacts of generative AI being incorporated into various companies, and the impact of that on the workforce. So it is often those higher paying occupational groups who are at risk of seeing the highest exposure to generative AI. And you can see that here on the screen. There's also a potential for middle skill kind of office and administrative supporters to see the same idea. It's really those manually intensive roles, blue collar sectors like construction, where there's not a whole lot of exposure. Now, I do want to make sure that I clarify here that exposure to the technology, meaning like the potential for the tasks within that role to be impacted by the technology, does not necessarily correlate with whether or not the workers are going to be displaced. Okay. The exposure rates in themselves do not predict or determine the nature of the effect on the workforce. Instead, it's generative AI's potential involvement with jobs or occupational groups without distinguishing between labor augmenting or labor displacing effects. So again, we don't know how this exposure is going to impact real-time workers, but there is a potential for certain industries in particular to see a decrease in human employees, okay? So with all of this information, we kind of have two directions we can go. We can have techno-optimism. We can embrace the opportunity that comes with these technologies alongside the unfamiliarity, the learning curve, and the unknown. We can embrace what this change has to offer and recognize that technology can improve society, it can improve lives of individuals, it can make the world a better place. We're starting to see this really quick adoption of generative AI. ChatGPT became the fastest spreading tech platform in history, reaching 1 billion monthly visits in its November 2022 launch. And one of the reasons for that is because it's accessible. It doesn't require new infrastructure like previous technologies that have disrupted things. ChatGPT and other generative AI platforms are running off of existing web browsers and apps. So if you know how to use Google or you know how to use a general search platform, it's pretty easy to learn how to use ChatGPT. So lots of folks are trying this out, lots of folks are engaging in it. And as far as technologies go, it can be pretty accessible. The other side is this, that there's currently very few guidelines or codes of conduct for how companies should be ethically implementing AI with respect to their workforce. And that's what's scary for people. Many companies are really feeling this intense pressure from their competitors to adopt AI specifically to save on labor costs and to increase efficiency. So some of the concerns that are coming out of this widespread implementation of artificial intelligence, you can see here, of course, data privacy, right? Is my information secure? Disinformation, we've seen this through the election cycle. These generative artificial intelligence platforms produce information that's drawing from what already exists out there on the internet. And some of the things that are out there aren't accurate, aren't correct, aren't legitimate, as well as engage in a lot of discrimination. You know, there's a lot of things that are out there on the internet that are biased, toxic, racist, sexist, etc. And so when these models are pulling from what's already out there, a lot of that information comes with it. So we need to be really sure that we are vetting the information that generative AI is creating for us and editing it before we just go ahead and use it. And then, of course, that fourth concern is also displacement. I did want to make sure that I popped this link into the chat as well. This all comes from an article called Approaching Generative AI with a Beginner's Mindset from the McKinsey Corporation. So there you go. All of this is to say that companies who are using AI simply to displace workers are missing the full impact of it. So all this research is showing us that organizations that are using AI as a partner for human workers rather than a replacement are seeing much better outcomes. So it's really this collaborative intelligence, humans and AI actively enhancing each other's strengths, meaning like the leadership, the teamwork, the creativity, those soft core human skills of the human, and pairing that with the speed, the scalability, and the quantitative capabilities of the technology that are seeing the most impact, right? So it's this collaboration that is leading to the most proficiency, productivity, and accuracy out there. In this slide, I've linked several articles that provide examples of this collaborative technology. Again, I think that folks have sent all this out, so you guys should be able to access this in the PDF that I gave to Dawn the other day. So I'm not going to go into those details right at this point because I do want to save some time for the strategies and the tools. But that's sort of the big pattern and trend that we're seeing, right? The question is the technology going to replace us or support us? And there's a lot of data and research to show that just using it to displace workers is not the way to go. I know there was one more data point in here that I really wanted to share with you, and then we'll get into that. In fact, this is actually being recognized, and that point about unionizing and labor support is being recognized out there as well. There's some companies and worker-led organizations that are starting to launch promising collaborations sort of in defense of workers' rights. In 2023, Microsoft and the American Federation of Labor announced its first of kind tech labor partnership on AI and the future of the workforce. And the goal for that is to educate workers and to bring workers' voice into AI development and shape those pro-worker policies. So again, once more, that takeaway, organizations that are merely using the technology to displace workers through automation are missing the full potential. And there are organizations, people, and groups out there advocating for the rights of workers alongside the adoption of the technology. Okay, I'm gonna just skip over that for right now and really kind of emphasize this last thing, that as a human, even as these technologies emerge, come onto the scene, become implemented more consistently, what's really important in our humanness is our ability to learn and to adapt. So as a human, even with the technology, you are still valued, you are still needed, and there are lots of organizations out there who are recognizing the power of that human capacity and recognizing the value of their workforce. So in addition to, in the past, right, what used to be most important is what did you know and how could you do it? That technical skills and knowledge. What employers are really looking for now, in addition to that, is the emotional intelligence stuff, those interpersonal skills, the ability to have empathy for others, to communicate effectively, to have that creative thinking and problem solving, as well as that ability to learn and adapt, that kind of AQ or adaptability quotient. Again, comfort with change and uncertainty, flexibility and adaptability, and willingness to learn new things. Okay, I know I gave a lot of context. I want to jump into the tools now. So when we think about these impacts of technology, generative artificial intelligence, sorry about that, we're seeing it in our job seeker process. So I want to spend a little time sharing some information and some really great strategies and tools that you can take and use right now in your job search to kind of address these technological advancements as you are looking for a job. So I know that a lot of folks that have this big buzzword or this concern over the ATS system or applicant tracking systems. If you're not super familiar, applicant tracking systems are computer software systems that many, I'm not going to say most, but I really think I do mean most, organizations are using as sort of a screening protocol for their applicants. These have also gotten a lot smarter over the last couple years, even couple months, with the integration of generative AI technology. So it used to be that you could kind of trick the ATS system. You guys might have heard some of those tips and tricks of like putting the keywords in your resume in white font so that the human eye can't detect it, but the AI will read it. We don't want to do that anymore. So these systems have gotten smart enough that it's really effective at parsing information from a resume or from application materials. And you want to be fairly honest with it rather than trying to get those tips and tricks to move around. So I've got some high level things here in terms of how to beat the applicant tracking system. And then I also have a link to an article by the Muse that has a really great ATS friendly resume template and some more insight into the systems. So the first thing I want to say is make sure that you use a a template that's ATS friendly. So essentially what these systems are looking for is information from your resume that demonstrates your alignment with the base qualifications of the position you're applying for. So the first thing you want to make sure that you're doing is having a resume that those systems can read. Again, they are getting smarter every day. They're able to parse more information from more complex text. But in a general sense, you don't know what type of system the company you're applying for is using. So it's best practice to have a very minimalist design in your resume. No headers or footers. Try and avoid having things like columns, charts, images, or other graphic elements because some of those systems have a hard time reading those. Less is really more when it comes to the template you're using. I would strongly encourage against using a platform like Canva to create your resume because there's so much complex formatting in that, and you just don't know if the system will be able to read it. Um, these systems are scanning often for exact matches. So to increase your chances of getting through the system and having your resume being selected, some of the things you might want to think about doing are using exact keywords from the job description with some variations. We don't want to just be copying and pasting from the job description, but if there are phrases, terms, qualifications, ideas that are repeated throughout the job description, you can assume that that's important to the role. And so having that in your resume is going to increase the chances of your resume getting through the system. In a general sense, the more often those keywords appear on your resume, the higher your resume is going to rank based on the system. Okay. Another thing to remember is that these systems read sort of like accessibility readers. So they kind of read through formatting and structure in the resume as opposed to just the words that are on there. So it can be really helpful to clearly name sections of your resume to kind of trigger the system to know, right? Oh, here are the skills, right? I want to make sure the skills on this resume align with the job description. Same thing with experience summary, etc. Really clearly label those sections in your resume and have some solid structure and formatting. Bullet points are great, right? The things we do to kind of clarify our resumes for the human eye can also be really effective for the applicant tracking systems. Think about using easy to read fonts. You don't want to use anything wild or crazy. Colors kind of go by the same way. Um, People always ask me about what format to submit so that the system can read it. My general answer to this is if a company asks you to submit a specific format, follow their directions. There's been lots of conversation about is a PDF the best or is a PDF not the best? Most of these systems are capable of reading PDFs, and I would argue that a PDF is the most universal format as far as formatting goes. Because think about if you're like a Mac user or a Microsoft user, right? And when you send that Word document to someone using the other, it has the potential to change the formatting. The PDF doesn't change. So I would generally encourage a PDF unless you are asked for something specifically that is different from that. Another great strategy that I'm going to go into here in just a second is to use artificial intelligence to check if your resume is ATS friendly. You can pop your resume into ChatGPT, ask it some questions, and it will give really fabulous feedback. You can also ask ChatGPT or any other generative AI platform for suggestions on what you can do or what you can include or change in your resume based on the job posting. A couple things I want to point out that you don't want to do in terms of the ATS system, and I've already mentioned some of these, is the cheating idea. So these systems have become developed enough that they can spot attempts of trying to kind of circumnavigate the system. So do not do things like put keywords in white text to try to fool the system into thinking your resume should rank higher than it does. Another thing I like to point out is that yes, we do want to use keywords and information from the job description, but we shouldn't use them ad nauseum. Add keywords only where it makes sense and don't repeat them exhaustively. Do not copy and paste large sections from the job description into your resume, thinking that you are going to be matching the language. These systems can be more sophisticated than that. So I put that link in the chat. I already sort of addressed this, so I'm going to go quickly through this so I can get a little bit more through the AI tools. Here's another article from the Muse about how to read a job description. And I know that that sounds like, you don't know how to read a job description. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are some really key things we should be looking for in a job description, right? As we read these job descriptions, we should note certain information and identify things that can really help us out in applying to that job specifically. Here at Workforce Boulder County, we are huge advocates of tailoring your resume for every position that you apply for. And while that's tedious and takes some time, it really does emphasize this concept of quality of applications over quantity. And I would really echo what Amy said earlier as well about really being intentional and targeting what you're looking for. Because if you're putting that much effort and time and energy into these applications, you want to make sure that they're high quality. So I would really strongly encourage you to take the time to do that intentional tailoring and spend extra time and effort for those jobs that you really, really are interested in. And really digging into a job description can be a really effective way to do that, right? Looking for experiences that would help a person land this job or perform it well, right? Looking for things that have been repeated throughout the job description. Typically, a job description has 3 to 5 themes or ideas that are mentioned more than once across different sections. Those are the things you really want to target in your tailoring. These are the core abilities that are crucial to thriving in the job, as well as some of those personal and human components that would make you a good fit for the team and the workplace. Pay particular attention to order of information. Most job descriptions start with kind of those top qualifications listed first. There's a reason for the organization of a job description. So recognize that those first few bullet points are often a bigger or more, important part of the job than some of the other ones. And then kind of be aware of keywords versus buzzwords. Keywords are those important job duties, requirements, and skills, as well as some of those company attributes they really want folks to be thinking about. Whereas buzzwords can often be those trendy or popular phrases that people throw around, and they often lose their meaning when people use them over and over and over again. Okay, so the last two things I really want to share with you are some examples and to be really intentional in showing you how some of these tools can work. So in terms of resume, I'm going to say builders with quotation marks because the key to using artificial intelligence for your resume is to use it to edit, to modify, to kind of test and check out what you've got. The idea is that you really have to have a draft of your resume first because even if these systems are really intelligent, they still don't know you and know what you've done and what you're capable of. So that information that goes into your resume, those experiences that you've had, where you've worked, what your responsibilities were, your skills, your competencies, right? You need to create those. And then these systems can help improve upon the draft that you already have. Okay. We want to, again, really think about tailoring to job description. So if you have a solid master resume that has all the stuff in there, these tools can be really effective at helping you tailor that master resume to the type of resume you want to send off for that job description very specifically. Okay. Using keywords strategically, we already talked about that, including soft skills. And then the last thing, of course, is definitely proofreading and verifying the final output. You will be absolutely blown away at what happens when you put your resume into ChatGPT and what it comes out with. But always, always, always check those results before you just send them right off. So here I have a list of some of those really great resume builders for using artificial intelligence. And I'll give just a quick overview of a couple of them. Some of them can be really helpful in small capacities. And what Lisa's saying here is really, really key, right? A lot of these have paywalls to them, and the capacities they have on the free version are just not that great. And so they really kind of trick you into paying for more things. But like Zeddy is a great one for folks who need that detailed customization and additional career resources. It helps you tailor your resume to specific job descriptions. But again, there's a paywall that kind of doesn't allow you to access those key features. Resi can be really great for passing the ATS scan. They do a really great job of looking at, what the ATS system is looking for and make sure that your resume gets through that. Um, Enhance V is great for creative professionals. So I know that if you're a creative professional and I said, don't put anything fancy on your resume, take away the color and the cool formatting, Enhance V is a great place for folks who need to demonstrate some of that digital design in their resume. Yeah, folks have their opinions about Resume Genius. In general, it's a pretty quick and straightforward one, but again, the paywall can make it a problem for folks. I'd really like to share ChatGPT with you and do a real quick demonstration of what this can look like. So I just put my resume in here. And this is something that Travis's course can really help you with, is asking the technology the right questions. I just want to give a quick demonstration of what this looks like. So I'm just going to type in here, review the attached resume. I can spell attach. And just like a real-time demonstration of what this can do. So here's my resume, and here's what ChatGPT is doing with it. It gives me some strengths. It identifies what's really effective about my resume and gives some really actionable feedback. You can kind of scroll through and see these things. It says I have great detailed work experience, I have a diverse skill set, I have relevant certifications, da da da. And then here we go. It's also going to give you some really critical feedback in terms of improving your resume.
Can
Um,
you show again what you typed for it to do that?
Yep, I just uploaded my resume, and for the sake of our time, I already had it uploaded. I didn't have to do that. So you'll see that my resume is uploaded here, and then I just put in review attached resume. That's it. And here's all the stuff that it gives me. It gives me some specific feedback in terms of improving, right? Reducing some redundancy. So I have some things that are repeated in my resume that might not be so effective. Tina, great question. I would argue yes, you should probably take that off. I should have done that, but I did not do so just now. Reducing redundancy, quantifying my impact further, enhancing the skills section. I could maybe categorize my skills into technical and soft to kind of differentiate better, and formatting adjustments. You can also ask it to revise the above resume, and it will give me a perhaps better formatted resume that's going to incorporate some of those suggestions that it gave, right? There's my professional summary. It's encouraging me to put some of my key skills there and to emphasize them at first. So it pulled out some of those key skills for me. It is going to revise some of my bullet points, give me some of the feedback in here. You can ask it to do so many different things. I uploaded my resume. You can also copy and paste it. You can also create, yep, absolutely. You can definitely ask it to create an elevator pitch. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is to show how it can tailor to a specific job description. So I have a job description open. I'm just going to paste the job description in here, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to review. Actually, I'm going to call it above because it's already in there. Review the above resume for alignment with this job description. And then I'm just going to paste the link. So there's a link for a position at Boulder County. I'm going to pop that in there. Got to get down to the end of it. Oh, see, it provided issues in the job description. So instead, what you can do is you can just copy and paste the job description. Let me do that real quick. There's the job description. And now look at what it's doing. It's evaluating my alignment from my resume with that job description. So I'm aligned in terms of education, experience, and technical proficiency. I have some experience that aligns with their preferred qualifications. my knowledge, skills, and abilities, you can go on and on and on, right? And yeah, Lisa, great point there. When you upload a ChatGPT, it does get added to the database, but so does anything you put on the internet in any capacity, right? So that's kind of how you can use ChatGPT as a resource for resumes. I also want to give a quick demonstration and example of how we can use this for interviews. So remember that the resume gets you the interview has the potential of getting you the job. And something else to remember in that interview space is that the interview is really important in determining fit. And that is on both sides of the coin, right? So the interviewer wants to make sure that you are the right person to hire onto their team, into this position, into their organization. But it's also really important that you determine fit as well. When you walk into that interview and recognize maybe something's off, there are some huge red flags, listen to your gut because you are determining that fit as well. The other thing I really like to share about interviewing is that if you're invited for an interview, the hiring committee is rooting for you. If you're interviewing, you're qualified and you have a chance there. So, ways that you can be effective in preparing for the interview, of course, the things that you know in general, but also some really great AI tools to help with that. So, linked on this slide, I have Google Interview Warmup. This is an AI embedded platform that Google has used to help folks, determine what sorts of questions they might be asked in the interview, and will also give feedback on your responses. I believe that it records you, and you can go back and look at the video as well as receive the feedback. And then ChatGPT is also really great for that. And I have this article linked here as well. Let's see if it'll pop up. Loading, loading, loading. ChatGPT can help you create the questions, can help you identify some questions to ask at the end of the interview. I love to go into ChatGPT and say, write interview questions for, and then I will name the title of the position and even include where the position is, like if it's in a large hospital or if it is with a government entity. You can also copy and paste the job description directly into ChatGPT and say, write interview questions for this role. Really, really effective in bringing some of those questions, especially the behavioral ones, right? Like give an example of a time in which you had this experience. It's really great at that. So I finished with 5 minutes for questions and answers. But yeah, I think that that's all I have to share today. I would love to answer any questions that folks have. And I know I missed a bunch in the chat. So organizers, if there's anything that I missed that you'd like me to address specifically, please do let me know. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It
Wow, wow,
was
wow.
super quick speed, but we got through it.
I
I
think
didn't
you
see.
actually caught all the questions as well.
No way.
There's just a couple of other like resumeworded.com got popped in there, jobscan.co got popped in there. So if you wanted to talk, make any comment on that. Otherwise, I think you caught everything.
Great. And I think another great space for this is, there are definitely people on the call that are using these technologies and are really well versed in some of them. So I think this is a great space for folks to continue sharing some of those resources. What's working for you? What's not working for you? What do you like? What do you not like? Where have you run into issues? Yeah, using ChatGPT to prepare for interviews can be really, really effective.
So just like,
Glassdoor. Yeah.
I'm sorry, just like you just touched on using Chat GTP or generative AI to train one to get to do interviewing, are there resources or prompts you can suggest to use it to train one to use itself? Meaning, right, for folks that are new to Chat GTP or generative AI, right, that are maybe a little bit intimidated by it, or, this strikes me that it's sort of like I'm young enough to know when computers came into the workplace, right? And people were all freaked out about, I know typewriters, but I don't know computers, and yeah, and desktop publishing is alien and whatever, right? And
Yeah.
the displacement thing, right? This is kind of like that in reborn, right? So is how does what are the right prompts to Chat GPT, teach me how to use Chat GTP, right?
That's a great question, Trent. And you know what? I'm actually going to ask Travis to answer that question because that is his wheelhouse. Travis, do you mind jumping in and answering that question about learning how to use ChatGPT? Because I know that that's your business and that's what you do.
Yeah, that's exactly what our business model is. It is teaching people to be proficient in prompt engineering. So that's the name of it. When that name that saying engineering, it tends to give people a pushback that, oh, this means that, I'm going to learn some kind of software engineering stuff. In reality, it is more along the lines of what Kelly demonstrated here today. And we have specific methodologies that we teach within our class across all different scopes and industries for the sake of creating efficiencies. And you can find free to near free classes as well as classes that you go through big institutions like MIT, Vanderbilt, big name institutions that teach these same courses for thousands of dollars. We're kind of in the middle of the road. I'm not trying to do any advertising here on this, but along this same line of, and you did a fantastic job, Kelly, with regards to LTS and explaining how it works. There's one other system that goes above that, and that's leadership perception screening, LPSs. And so if you're someone that's applying for a management role or a leadership oriented role, those LPS systems for their clients, meaning the employer, are scanning to make sure your word usage, your verbiage matches something of the education level of someone applying for that job. So when you do use ChatGPT to do ATS evaluation, also ask it to do an LPS evaluation too, and it'll further give you recommendations on wording within your resume to make you seem competent and effective for the position.
Thank you so much, Travis. I really appreciate that. And I wanted to just echo a couple of those things and also kind of share that, from my opinion, the best way to upskill to learn, to try it, to learn these technologies, Trent, is just to play with them.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've read recently is one of the new interview questions that folks are being asked in all industries and in all capacities is, how are you using artificial intelligence in your personal and professional life? So ask it to plan a vacation for you. Ask it for recommendations for a restaurant to go to in a city you're not familiar with. Start asking it these things to see what the responses are that you get. And that's kind of how you learn to hone your prompt engineering. And again, to echo Travis's point, I think as far as skills go and the thing that you want to learn and then to be able to demonstrate to employers, maybe to put on your resume, to David's question, is to take a prompt engineering class. I don't think it even cares which one you take, just to demonstrate that you have invested or engaged in that sort of professional development and learning, and that you have some skills in it. I would imagine that as these technologies become even more embedded in the workforce, many companies are going to say, we're going to train you on this. We're going to train you to use this platform that we use that's incorporated in our system. For example, that next evolution of Connecting Colorado, right? We're going to receive training in that and how to use it most effectively. So right now, just dip your toes in it, play with it, see what it can do, and kind of learn as you go, right? I think that that really aligns with what we talked about already in terms of like what employers are looking for, that ability and that willingness to just try. So that's what I would recommend as a first step here.
Fantastic.
Any other questions from folks?
I think what Kelly just said is so profound, of willingness to try. And however you can package that up, and that literally could be LinkedIn courses that you've gone through. It could be, oh, what is I lost it right now. What's the online university of courses? Coursera. Is that right?
Yeah. Coursera.
Coursera. There are so many things that you can just do that are going to show that you're trying, show that you're willing to learn. There was one question in the chat a little bit ago about on how do you show that on a resume? Show it of in the process of completing this course. Yep. That at least helps us understand on the we're hiring side that, oh, they are willing to learn. And to Kelly's point, you're not going to know every software system there is. And it's not that it's proprietary, but this is what this company is using. And so, oh, you've never used it, but you know that it's a whatever system. Is it HR system? Is it ATS? I mean, it depends on whatever the system is, but you have some familiarity with that system. One other comment in here was about Glassdoor that I just wanted to say from my standpoint, whether it's relevant or a good resource, every company is going to do it differently. So Glassdoor is only as good as current or past employees actually participating. And unless you have a company that is really encouraging, hey, we want new hires to know this, it's not that great of a resource. So you really want to come down to what are the questions that you want to know. And I love when candidates come to our place and they say, well, can you tell me what's your experience here working? What's the thing that you like the most? What's the thing that you like the least? It's amazing that if you get into just a conversation, if you ask a couple of those most or least, it's amazing what people are going to say because they're kind of on the spot. There's not a lot of candidates who actually come with any questions. And if you start asking questions, you're going to find out a whole lot more that you probably never would have.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is you're not looking for a job. You're looking for an employment relationship, right? And in
Yes.
all relationships, both parties want things, right? And you expect, and it's about an exchange, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, as a job seeker, obviously you want an income, but you want other things, right? And the other party also wants things, right? And so think about it in that terms, and you know, it's about an exchange. So, yeah.
Well,
Are
Kelly,
there any other questions that you guys have specific for Kelly as we're just wrapping up?
Kelly, thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thanks for having me. I love coming to this group. You guys are fabulous. And again, feel free to reach out to me, to Workforce Boulder County at any point, whether you're in Boulder County or not. We are happy to help anybody.
And just a reminder, you can save the chat. You should be able to. At the top of the chat box, 3 horizontal dots. Click on that and then click Save Chat.
Yeah.
Kelly, wonderful information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. And then, like we announced earlier, our next meeting is going to be 2 weeks from today, and it's going to be at that one. Everyone that shows up, we're going to have much more time to give more in-depth workshopping of whatever challenges folks are facing. And yeah, come on back.
And any organizers that are available or anyone that's interested in the future of BoulderNet, stick around for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Quick question for the meeting on the 19th. Will you use the
Yep.
same Zoom
Yes.
class? Okay, thank you.
Same link,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Kelly, thank you so much. It was a lot of information, but I think it was great. It definitely landed well. I can tell because there's still 25 people sticking around waiting for what else are we going to talk about? So wonderful information. Thank you so much for that. In the PDF slides that Kelly shared, Donna's going to get that emailed out to you all. So you'll have those links, you'll have the data, you'll have all of that. I'm making an assumption too. Did you put your contact info in those slides?
I just realized that I did not. That was a mistake
Okay.
on my part. Apologies for that.
Nope,
it is
all
in the
good
chat.
because we've popped it into the chat box. So if you save that as well, and Kelly Strong presentation, Kelly Strong, you'll remember her. So she's at Workforce Boulder. You're going to be able to find her. And if Kelly doesn't have the answer, she's going to get you somebody who does. So please reach out to Kelly if you want any other information. Reach out to us if you guys have questions. We're happy to help support you. And again, like I said at the top of the call, this group of facilitators and organizers, we are here to support you. We're here to root you on. We wish you all the best. We'll give you the information that we know that we can kind of point you in the right direction, but we are here just to cheer you on. And hopefully you're going to have a fantastic rest of your day We're going to have a fantastic couple of weeks till you come see us next, because as I said, looking for work is no joke. You got to be prepared and ready to do it.
Thanks, everybody. I've got to take off, but I appreciate you again and can't wait till the next time. Bye.
Thanks,
All
Kelly.
right, thank you. All right, any other last questions, comments, requests, etc.?
Complaints,
Exactly.
meaning of
All right,
life.
everybody, have a great rest of your week. We wish you all the best. Take
All right.
care.
Amy, nice job. Thank you.
Fantastic, Amy. Thank you.
Of course, of course.
Dan,
Yeah.
oh, I think Dan left. Nope.
No, Dan's here.
Any,
Did you say, Don, you want to stick around for a couple minutes?
well,
Yep, he did.
usually.
Trent, can you pull your
but-
slides real quick? And I'm gonna stop